Hello there, everybody. Nate Strong from Nightingale Writing Center. Let's talk about verb, mood, and modal verbs. I'll tell you straight up front, some of this is weird, some of it is obscure, but this is to make our suite of materials complete. So, what do I mean by verb mood? It's how we express the likelihood or necessity of an action, not to be confused with emotional mood. There are four moods in English, and the first we will look at is the indicative. It's the one that we use most of the time. It's the default mood in English, and so we don't really think about it very much. They like ice cream. Shanice has driven to the park. We will visit you tomorrow. These are all very standard, normal, everyday ways of expressing things, and most of our sentences are going to use the indicative mood. Again, it's basically the default for English verbs. Let's move on to the other three moods. First, we will look at imperative. The imperative mood is used for commands. We will use this occasionally in academic writing. Consider this, nursing is wonderful. In the sentence that I just used, the word consider is using the imperative mood. It is a command to the reader. And all it does is uses the root verb, like sit. There's no suffix, no helping verb, no anything other than the root verb for the imperative. Notice also that there's no subject appearing in the sentence like we have here. Fetch. We're not saying you fetch or it fetches or anything. And this poses a problem when we want to analyze the grammar of a sentence like this, because we maintain that for a clause, and you need a clause for for a complete and independent sentence, for the clause to have a subject and verb, well, there's just a verb there. We don't see anything in the subject. So for the imperative mood, we just sort of say that the subject is implied. We understand it even though it's not present, and we understand it to be you. You fetch, you stop. And so we sometimes call this you understood as the subject for the imperative mood. Okay, next up we have conditional mood, and this is the one that is probably the biggest deal out of the things that we are looking at here. To form the conditional mood in English, we are going to use modal verbs. And we will place those modal verbs directly before the root form of another verb. And here is really where we get a good look at that idea of possibility and necessity. You can see I very roughly organized these. So the things that are most necessary and most possible are up at the top. Must, shall, can. I must overcome. I shall overcome. I can overcome. And then the middle set are sort of in the middle. I would, I should, I could. We can even kind of see some pairings as we go along. I'll point that out in a second as we drop down to the least likely, might and may. Now the word will is a modal verb as well, but we actually use that for tense. So you can check out verb tense to learn more about that. You can see some of these pair up in terms of necessity. Shall is stronger than should, can stronger than could, must stronger than might, which is stronger than may. Now we have another set of verbs, the semi-modal verbs. For our purposes, we can lump them in with the modal verbs because they're functioning more or less the same. And if you look at the cream colored cells, you will see that these are actually just other ways to say the modal verbs that we just saw. Be able to, can, ought to, should, have to, have got to, and need to, must. I've put used to in blue because we actually will use that. It's more of an aspect thing. It's getting at the idea of an action that started and ended in the past. It's so weird I did not cover it in our aspect video because I figured this would be a good space to explain it. We can get the idea something that started in the past, ended in the past, and we're kind of thinking we're focusing on that ending. She used to go to the store, but not anymore. Right. And I put the words need and dare down at the bottom. They are so obscure and rare as semi-modal verbs. I'm not going to spend any more time on them other than to say you can check those out in our written materials in Nightingale Writing Center. They have very strange rules and they rarely occur as semi-modal verbs. Finally, we get to the subjunctive mood. It implies impossibility or necessity. Most of the time, subjunctive mood looks exactly like indicative mood, and that makes it it's kind of hidden in the English language. Whereas in some other languages that use subjunctive mood, there are all sorts of endings and such like that that make it very transparent and obvious. However, there are two situations in which we will use the subjunctive mood that are more common in spoken and written English. Let's look at these. If I were you, I would leave. Is it possible for me to be you? No, it's impossible. So we say if I were you rather than if I was you. If I was you implies that there is some possibility for me to be you, and we certainly don't mean that. The other sentence let's look at here. It is vital that she stay calm. The it is vital part is giving us that idea of necessity. It is vital. It is necessary. It is possible. It is impossible. We're kind of getting into these ideas of possibility and necessity. Now, if we were just to say by itself, she stay calm, that doesn't make any sense. We would say she stays calm. It's this addition of it is vital that pushes us into the subjunctive mood. All right, that is everything that I have on mood and modal verbs. Thank you very much for watching. Please check out our other videos on verbs here in Nightingale Writing Center. For now, thank you very much. Flame forward and have a wonderful day. Bye now.